A sunny day at the Healer house, and Bluey and Bingo decide to play an old Sonic video game on Dad's computer. "Let's collect rings and save our friends," exclaims Bluey, launching the cartridge they found in a box of ancient treasures. The game starts as usual. The blue hedgehog runs through green hills, collecting rings to cheerful music. But as they progress through the levels, things change. The colors become brighter, almost painfully so, and the background distorts as if the screen is melting. Suddenly, a strange character appears. Sonic with red eyes, bloody streaks on his face, and a smile full of sharp teeth. "I am God," flashes a message on the screen, and the music slows down, turning into a distorted, roaring noise. The sisters keep playing, but reality begins to merge with the game. The room darkens though the sun is still shining, and pixelated rings appear on the walls, spinning in the air. Bingo feels a chill as Sonic.EXE stares directly at them through the screen, his eyes tracking every movement. "Run but you can't escape," comes a voice from the speakers, low and raspy like a demon's laugh. The game levels fill with bloody pools, and Sonic's friends, Tails and Knuckles, turn into twisted corpses whispering, "Join us, Bluey." Bingo. The computer refuses to turn off, the screen flickering and showing reflections of the sisters inside the game they're running through endless loops, pursued by the blue horror. As the game continues, the nightmare intensifies. Bluey feels her paws on the keyboard growing heavy, as if chained, while pixelated spikes materialize in the room, scratching the floor. Bingo sees their toys come to life, their eyes turning red and mouths stretching into smiles, repeating, "I am God." Sonic.EXE's voice echoes through the house. "You're in my game, forever." The parents, Bandit and Chili, hear the noise, but when they enter they see only a flickering screen with the sisters sitting motionless, their eyes empty like the characters. Tension builds. The demon steps beyond the screen, his blue form glitching in the air, extending clawed hands toward the sisters, whispering, "Collect the rings or die." But at the last moment Bluey shouts, "This isn't a real game," and they yank the cord, smashing the computer. The screen goes dark, the shadows vanish, but the ending is ominous. That night, the computer turns on by itself, showing a menu with a new level, Bluey.EXE. Night falls over the Healer home deeply and silently. The full moon shines brightly through the window, casting long, eerie shadows that slowly dance across the walls, creating a sense of impending doom. A thick tension hangs in the air, as if an invisible wind threatens to tear the roof off the house. Bandit paces restlessly in the living room, feeling a strange building pressure within. Something primal and uncontrollable stirring beneath his skin, making his heart race. His pores gradually darken, thick fur rapidly sprouting along his limbs, his body involuntarily shuddering in painful convulsions, muscles tensing and stretching. His eyes flash with a yellow predatory glow, sharp claws bursting from his fingers, leaving deep scratches on the wooden floor with each uncertain step. The transformation completes suddenly and terrifyingly. Bandit becomes a massive wolf, larger and more menacing than any wild beast from the forest. His deep, piercing howl fills the night air, echoing through the surroundings, penetrating every room and sending an icy shiver down the spines of Bluey and Bingo. They huddle tightly under their blankets. Even in the darkness, their small bodies tremble with fear, forcing them to stay quiet, listening to every rustle behind the door. Shadows in the house come alive, creeping and stretching like sentient beings with minds of their own, creating a feeling of confinement as the walls seem to close in. Furniture creaks and bends under invisible pressure, like the breath of ancient forgotten forces awakening under the cover of night. Bandit the werewolf prowls the hallways, his footsteps echoing heavily in the emptiness, desperately trying to maintain control over the beast within, fighting wild instincts that demand freedom, destruction, and a hunt under the moonlight. In his mind, vivid saving memories flash. The ringing laughter of family at dinner, the warmth of everyday games with the kids, Chili's gentle voice calling him back to reality. These thoughts, like an anchor, battle the darkness inside, helping him not to lose himself in the depths of the animal mind, not to let the rage fully consume his reason. The moon slowly hides behind a dense veil of clouds, and with the fading light, Bandit's monstrous form begins to recede. Fur sheds like morning mist dissipating in the wind, claws softly retract. He falls to his knees, exhausted and gasping, trembling from the horror and fatigue endured. The first rays of dawn gently filter into the house, filling it with warm, soothing light and silence. Bluey and Bingo cautiously peek out from their room, eyes full of worry and relief, hearts still pounding from the night's terrors. They see their father back as himself, vulnerable but alive and whole. The house envelops in deep peace, as if the night itself retreats, giving way to a new day full of fresh hope, healing and quiet family moments. The Healer house began its morning like any other. Sunlight poured into the yard, Bluey and Bingo were getting ready to play outside, and Bandit and Chili bustled in the kitchen. The familiar scent of joy and freshness hung in the air. Yet, even then something was off. A subtle shadow flickered behind the bushes in the backyard, too tall to be a neighbor's child, too still to be merely a tree's shade. Bluey stepped into the yard and started playing with her ball. Each time the ball rolled towards the far fence, she felt a gaze upon her. She sensed someone behind the old half-ruined garden shed. She threw the ball harder, and for a fleeting moment she saw it. A tall, slender figure stood absolutely motionless. It resembled a dog but had no face, just a smooth, dark surface that seemed to absorb the light. Bluey blinked and the figure was gone. She tried to tell Bandit, but he was too busy playing chasey with Bingo. "Just shadows playing with you, Bluey," he chuckled. Bluey tried to forget, but now, wherever she went, she felt his presence. In the kitchen window, as Chili cooked breakfast, his reflection flickered. Behind the tree at the playground, swinging on the swings, he was always there if she didn't look directly. The house began to change. The bright colors faded, the air grew heavy and cold. Toys weren't left where they belonged. At night, Bluey heard a faint scratching sound from within the walls, as if something was slowly crawling through the wires. And in the morning, new drawings appeared on the fridge. Strange, childlike scribbles depicting the Healer family, but always with this tall, faceless figure standing nearby amidst their games and laughter. One day, Bluey and Bingo were playing in their room when the lights suddenly went out. From the darkness came a very soft, drawn-out whisper like rustling leaves, but uttering their names. It came from everywhere and nowhere. Bingo began to cry and the lights flickered back on, but the room was different. Bingo's toys were scattered, and among them stood one Bluey had never seen before. A tall, thin, faceless doll looking exactly like the observer. The doll didn't move, but its presence was overwhelming. Bluey took Bingo's paw. They slowly backed out of the room. Behind them, the doll slowly tilted its head, then its empty head turned and fixed itself on the exact spot where they had been standing. The house plunged into a suffocating silence. The episode ended with the family huddled together in the living room. They tried to laugh and play as usual, but their laughter was strained, and their eyes constantly darted around the room, searching for something that might be hiding in any shadow. Outside the window just beyond the glass, he stood, tall, silent, faceless. He simply watched, and now his silhouette was far clearer than ever before. The screen slowly faded to black, leaving only a ringing silence. The room with the clock. The episode begins at the end of the school day. Bluey, Bingo, Coco, Mackenzie, and Snickers are playing in the schoolyard. The air feels strangely quiet, as if all sounds are muffled. No teachers are in sight. Mackenzie suggests a game of hide and seek. The others eagerly agree. He starts counting out loud, monotone, slow. Bluey runs off alone. Inside the school building, she notices an unfamiliar wooden door down a side hallway, similar to other classroom doors but with a dull brass handle. It wasn't there before. The door is open. Bluey enters. The room is empty. Wooden floor, bare walls. In the center stands an old pendulum clock, black, carved from dark wood. The hands move backward. On the walls hang old photographs. In one, Bingo sits on a swing, her face slightly blurred. In another, Chili stands in the kitchen, eyes closed. In the third, Bluey stands at a window, but behind her there's only darkness, as if the window looks into nothing. From the corner, a soft, even ticking sound. The pendulum swings. Bluey sits down on the floor. She hears footsteps beyond the door, but they don't get closer. They only pace back and forth like someone searching but not daring to come in. She steps out. The schoolyard is empty. Coco stands near a tree, staring off. Snickers sits, unmoving. Mackenzie is on a bench. He's watching her. Slowly, he turns his head. He says nothing. Bluey walks up to him. He silently points over her shoulder. She turns. It's the same school door she just came through. In the glass, her reflection. But it doesn't mimic her movements. Bluey heads home. The sky darkens quickly. Chili greets her as if nothing happened. Bandit washes dishes. Bingo is drawing. On her paper, a clock. No numbers. Everyone speaks normal phrases, but their tone is wrong, rehearsed, uncertain, as if they're unsure what they're supposed to say. Bluey goes to bed. She looks at her bedside table. The same clock sits there. She doesn't remember bringing it home. In the middle of the night, she wakes up. From the hallway, tick, tick, tick. She walks down the corridor. The floor beneath her feet sounds dull, heavy. The lights don't turn on. At the end of the hallway, another door. It opens by itself. Inside the same room. But now the clock is taller, almost as big as Bluey. There are more photographs. In one, the whole family is at the table, but all looking in different directions. The windows behind them are black. In another, Mackenzie stands by the school wall. His face is gone. Only a shape remains. Final shot, the clock. Its hands still move backward. The pendulum hums louder than before. Everything holds still. Black screen. No credits. No music. The episode begins like any other sunny morning at the Healer house, with Bluey and Bingo joyfully playing in the living room. Suddenly, they stumble upon a large antique mirror that seemingly was never there before. Bandit and Chili are in the kitchen, preoccupied with their own tasks, paying no attention to the children. And this is where things start to go wrong. Bluey and Bingo decide to play making faces in front of this strange mirror. They make silly faces and giggle, but it quickly becomes obvious that their reflections are not just copies. They are different. The reflections in the mirror smile wider than Bluey and Bingo. Their eyes begin to look unnaturally large and bright, almost like someone lurking in the shadows waiting for their moment. You know how a clown's eyes look? Exactly like that. The children at first don't notice anything suspicious, thinking it's part of the game. They try to mimic their reflections, but the reflections start to show something truly chilling. Bandit and Chili appear in the mirror, but their faces are distorted with fear, and their smiles are painted on, empty. They look miserable, almost like lifeless mannequins. Then, the parents' figures in the reflections suddenly vanish, leaving only the empty, sinisterly smiling reflections of the children. Bluey, sensing that something is deeply wrong, tries to touch her reflection. But instead of touching, her reflection sharply pushes her hand away. And you wouldn't believe it, a faint red streak resembling blood appears on the mirror. It was impossible and unnatural. Bluey and Bingo step away from the mirror, but the nightmare is just beginning. Their own faces slowly, almost imperceptibly begin to distort, mirroring the sinister smiles of their reflections. Their voices, when they try to speak, become deeper, raspier, completely unlike the sweet puppies they are. And then the most unsettling part happens. The background of the room slowly, inexorably begins to transform into a dark, damp sewer. The sounds from the cartoon gradually morph into dripping water, muffled footsteps, and a quiet, sinister giggle that seems to come from everywhere, enveloping the entire space. The final shot, the camera slowly, agonizingly zooms in on the mirror, and in it, there is no longer a reflection of the room. There is a dark, bottomless well. And for a moment, just a second, from that abyss emerges a single, huge, predatory yellow eye. Then the episode abruptly cuts off, the screen filled with a deep, dead black.